Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Mesechet Bikkurim. We are up to Perek Aleph, Mishna Zayin. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Aranbayev, and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam beGan Eden, Amen. The Mishnah begins, Ifrish Bikurav Umachar Sadeu. If someone designated his Bikurim from some of the species in his field, and then he sold his field, Mevi Veno Kore, he brings the Bikurim that he designated, but he does not recite the passage, because since he does not own the land, he cannot say the land that you have given me. Vasheni, and the second one, meaning the buyer of the field, he does the following. Meoto Hamin Eno Mevi. From the species that had already been designated as Bikurim, he does not bring more Bikurim, and the Rav writes why. Because this Tana learns out from a pasuk in the Torah that Bikurim can be brought only once from a particular species in a particular field. But from a different species growing in that field, he does bring Bikurim and he recites the passage. Rabbi Yehuda says, Af me'oto amin mevi v'koreh. Even from that species that had already been designated as Bikurim, he brings more Bikurim and he recites the passage. The Mefarshim explained, the Rav writes, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the pasuk refers to land that had just one owner, in which case he cannot bring Bikurim more than once from a particular species. But if the land had two owners, such as a seller and a buyer, both can bring Bikurim from the same species. And the Rav does say, Ven halakha ki Rabbi Yehuda, the halakha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda. And that is in Rabotai Mishnah Zayin. Mishnah Chet now teaches what should be done if Bikurim became damaged or otherwise unfit to be offered. Hifrish Bikurav, if someone designated as Bikurim, Nivzizu, and they were plundered, Namaku, or they rotted, Nignivu, or they were stolen, which Mefarshim explain. Plundered refers to things seized openly. Stolen refers to what was taken secretly. Avdu, or they were lost. Oshinitmeu, or they became tameh. Mevi acharim tahtehem. He brings others in their place, meaning the owner of Bikurim is obligated to bring them to the Temple Mount, to the Harabayit. If he cannot bring the ones that he originally designated, he must bring others. And the source for this law, biblical source, is going to be in the next Mishnah. Right, Mevi veno koreh. Right, Mevi acharim tachtehem. He brings others in their place. Veno koreh, but he does not recite the passage, because since these are not his original Bikurim, it would be inappropriate for him to say that he has brought the first fruits of the land, like the Torah refers to it, which is a verse in this passage, right, in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 26, pasuk 19. Vashniim, and the second ones, the replacement Bikurim, enam hayavim aleim chomesh. One who is not a Kohen is not obligated to pay the penalty of a fifth for eating them by mistake. And the Mefarshim give a background. Bikurim are called Tiruma in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 12, pasuk 17. Therefore, like Tiruma, Bikurim may be eaten only by a Kohen and a member of his household. And if a non-Kohen ate Bikurim by mistake, meaning he did not know that they were Bikurim, or he did not know that eating Bikurim is forbidden, he must pay a Kohen the value of what he ate plus a fifth, which we learned many times is a quarter of the principal, which is a fifth of the final total. Our Mishnah teaches that one who ate replacement Bikurim does not have to pay the fifth, for since they are not the first fruits of the land, they are not true Bikurim. And these laws about the Chomesh, the penalty and the fifth, they're going to show up in Perek Bet Mishnah Aleph. The Mishnah continues, Nitmeu bazara. However, if the original Bikurim became tameh in the temple courtyard, he does not replace them. And the Mefarshim explain, once the owner has brought his Bikurim to the Harabayit, to the Temple Mount, he has fulfilled his obligation and he's no longer required to replace them if they're lost or ruined. No fetz. Rather, he shakes them out of their basket onto the floor of the courtyard. Veno koreh, and he does not recite the passage. And the Mefarshim explained Bikurim should be brought in a basket. We'll see in chapter 3, Mishnah 6. He shakes them out of the basket to publicly demonstrate that they are tameh and may not be eaten. The empty basket is given to a Kohen. This we learn from the pasuk in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 26, pasuk 4. V'lakacha Kohen atena miyadecha. The Kohen shall take the basket from your hand, which, based on the literal meaning, indicates that sometimes the Kohen takes only the basket without the Bikurim that were inside of it. And the Mishnah concluded by saying he does not recite the passage because in connection with the mitzvah of reciting the Bikkurim passage, the Torah states in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 26, pasuk 11, "V'samachta b'chol hatov asher natan lecha Adonai Elohecha." You shall rejoice in all the good that Hashem your God has given to you. This pasuk teaches that the passage must be recited in a state of happiness and rejoicing. Such joy, the Tosfot Yom Tov says, is lacking when the Bikkurim are lost or ruined. Now, although the Mishnah mentions the courtyard, the law is that even if Bikkurim became tameh upon being brought into the Temple Mount before reaching the courtyard, the owner has fulfilled his duty and does not have to replace them. This is going to be explicit in the next Mishnah. Our Mishnah mentions the courtyard in order to teach that even if the Bikkurim were tahor, when they were brought into the Temple Mount and did not become tameh until they reached the courtyard, the passage should not be recited. And that is an Abotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.